Welcome back to the Goju Ryu Karate Center. Today I have the great privilege of having Sensei Max Beddow from the UK in our Intercontinental podcast series. As you all know, I did a review of his wonderful books. Again, link is always in the description. And I just want to read to you his really, really impressive accolades. So Sensei Max was graded to 6th Dan in 2019. So that means you're due for 7th Dan sooner rather than later, Sensei.
We'll see. Hope so.
See, I know. We can't ask, we must be invited. Then you began training in 1888. I was 2 years old at the time. In 1990, that's when you started Goju Ryu.
Well, I started kickboxing and full contact karate probably about 1988, something like that. And I got to done in that. But at the time I was reading a lot of magazines and articles. Read a lot of magazines here in England, Fighters, Martial Arts Illustrated, Combat Magazine, and of course Terry O'Neill's Fighting Arts International,
Of course.
which was a great magazine. And in that magazine I used to see articles on Goju Ryu, Higuana Sensei, Yamaguchi Sensei, and then British instructors that we have here, Gary Spires from New Zealand, who lived in England here, and also the likes of Steve Morris that went over to Japan along in the early days, along with the likes of Dennis Martin. So I wanted to do Goju Ryu, but in the area I lived, there was no Goju Ryu dojos available. So still practicing the full contact karate. A friend of mine, Frank Johnson, who was a Wado Ryu practitioner, had a shop not far from us. And we used to go in there on a Saturday, and he put me in touch with my sensei, which was Keith Pace. I contacted him, and the rest history. He put us in touch with his dojo, and we went up. It was I think it was about 180-mile round trip to travel up there. It was well worth it, absolutely well worth it. So I started Goju Ryu, opened the dojo about 1996, something like that. And unfortunately, Sensei Keith passed away. And eventually I joined up with the IOGKF or the EGKA. And went to meet Higuana Sensei in Liverpool with Terry O'Neill. And then I was welcomed in by Sensei Ernie Molyneux and Sensei Roy Flatt, who've sort of looked after me ever since.
Into my series of questions. How important is lineage to you? So this is a question that I like to ask people because there's so many interesting answers about the value of lineage. Does it matter in 2025? Especially since karate is in this very contested space about lineage doesn't matter, or, you know, you don't need lineage to be a great martial artist. I think it's important, but I'd love to hear your views on the value of lineage to you and your style in particular.
Yeah, lineage is very important. So before I was in the EGKA, my own club, through Sensei Keith Pace, our lineage came through Gary Spires had trained with Yamaguchi Sensei in Japan, and he'd also trained Okinawan Goju in Yoyogi Dojo with Mario Higuana Sensei.
Serious pedigree going back to Yogi Dojo.
Yes. So Gary had taught my instructor Keith. So a lot of the influences that come through come from direct top karate instructors, and then the likes of Gary Spires made it work on the nightclub doors and in security industry. So it was a good tried and tested system that I was taught. Then when I moved over to the EGKA or the IOGKF, then we had direct contact with some of the top masters.
Speaking of the EGKF, what's the tournament scene like in the UK? So in South Africa, we have pretty much, I'd say, a 50-50 split between traditional and tournament karate. We have a very healthy environment for both. Our students who've immigrated to the UK have found they've struggled to find traditional dojos, but it may just be that there's not as many dojos as there are here. And I know that your dojo does competition, so tell me a little bit about the scene. how influential is it on the karate around you, and is it thriving, or especially now post Olympics, or are we seeing with people and parents being a lot more hesitant to let their kids get hit? Are you seeing a drop in tournament entries?
We're not a big organisation into tournaments. The EGKA do have tournaments, but they don't have very many at all. The circuit is busy in the UK. We don't do many competitions. We've been successful in the ones that we've been in, and I am joined it with Sensei Sam Nelschop and Daljit Verdi in organising a tri-county competition. That's Inikumi and Kata. So we do that once a year.
Yes.
And then the EGKA Nationals, but we don't do many competitions. It's mainly traditional karate.
How big is WKF Shiai Kumite style there in the UK?
I'm not too familiar with all the sport karate. I must be honest. It's if it wasn't for the kids, we probably wouldn't have gone into the competitions. Because for many years I didn't teach.
Interesting.
It's the kids that keep us into the competitions.
So it's the direct opposite of our dojo. Our kids don't want to do competitions. They like to fight,
yeah,
but they don't want to do competitions. I think it's that very much they struggle with the concept of winning and losing, and the pressure of tournaments. And you do get dojos that are like very, very tournament orientated, and in particular attract a very particular kind of student and parent. But we found, being a very traditional dojo, we don't attract that kind of win at all costs mentality, which I think I'm quite grateful for. Our adults also are seriously not interested. I'm sure, like your adults, are not interested in the time sink of competing. It becomes a 5-6 day a week thing.
Yes.
So I think that for a traditional dojo, there's no space or time in the syllabus. Speaking as a Goju Ryu man, tell me about, what's your favorite kata?
Oh, my favorite kata.
I know it's like choosing a favorite child, but
I like Space Sam kata. I like Cypher kata, Tensho.
Mm-hmm.
There's a good balance between all them, but Seizen's one of my favorite katas, I think.
I think we do have different favorite katas as we age. I know I really hated Cypher in my 20s. Now I've come to love the kata. I remember when I learned it, I hated it. I think it was probably the balancing on one foot thing. You know, everyone has a little bit of a wobble in the beginning, and it's not a great feeling when you klutz in front of Sensei. But over time, I've come to really appreciate Cypher, and at the moment, and has been for a few years now, Shishoshin's been my favorite kata. And then Tensho would probably be my second favorite. If I had to choose one to teach for the rest of my life, I'd probably choose Tensho. As if I had to pick one kata until I died to teach, because I think it covers everything you need to know about Goju Ryu. We only have 12 or so kata to choose from. I think our friends in Shotokan have 36 kata.
Yeah.
But I think with the sheer depth of bunkai we have, there isn't enough time. There isn't enough time in a lifetime to get through all the katas properly.
No, and I think Cypher kata's very different when you learn Gekisai Daiichi, Gekisai Ni, or with the Kion katas. I still teach some of the basic five Kion katas just to add to the syllabus. But Cypher's so different for me because whereas Gekisai Daiichi is one, all single, Cypher's doing three things together, so you've got the body doing three things in one timing of both sides of the body.
I think this is due to the fact that the order of the katas is actually slightly artificial. It wasn't that Shojo Miyagi Sensei taught them in any particular order after students would learn Sanjin to start. Whereas we teach backwards. We teach Sanjin later. We should probably start teaching it sooner. But the order of Cypher, Seiyun, Shishoshin, I don't think it's controversial to say that it is an artificial structure, because I would argue that Seiyunshin is much harder than Sanseru, but it comes before because they needed to have some kind of order, I think, just to have a syllabus in order to export karate.
Well, I suppose syllabus is just evolved, don't they, in different dojos, obviously. But apparently there was no set syllabus. The students were taught what suited them, you know. So I guess it makes sense that when we're older and some of the joints are damaged, and you've got to do the spinning kick and super empe and the jumping
Yes.
super empe, that it would make sense to do that when you're younger rather than older. But you can't buy
Exactly.
experience, can you? You've got to put the time in.
Mm. I know Sensei Shannon told my husband that he taught Super Rinpe early because you should enjoy it while you're younger, but also because it just takes so long to learn. It's the sooner you start, the more time you have. But the problem is now you've seen 7-year-olds doing Super Rinpe tournaments. So,
when you watch some of the old black and white footage now on YouTube of
yes,
your yoga dojo and different dojos doing it was certainly a more explosive, just form of kata than it was, and that's what kata is ultimately for, is to practice working combination. Tradition kata has its place, and it's fantastic, and it allows you to focus on the thing in general. But you know, some katas people do kata quite scruffy, but their techniques are quite real, if you know what I mean. So you've got to strike a balance between realism and aesthetically pleasing looking katas, if you know what I mean.
That influence of aesthetics in terms of how Instagrammable is it? How beautiful is it? Is it clean? Is it tidy? Is this? How do you feel it's influenced both your teaching, your dojo, and what you put out there on the internet?
Well, it's part of life now. Social media. I'm still missing a trick with social media. I've got Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, but I've always had students that have set that up for me. I mean, it took me a while to get on here this morning. Anything IT I can mess up, believe me. But the world's a small place now. I mean, when I started Goju, which is 35 years ago, more than that, just a bit more than that, you had a few books on Goju, but there was very little on the internet then. And you have to make the best use of social media, and it's good for us because a lot of the kids, we can put some of their stuff up online, and their families all over the world can see what they're doing and keep tabs on them, and so that's good. And it's good to share information and to learn and to research all different things that you need to know. Going back to your question about katas and younger people or age doing super empe, there's a big thing in a lot of modern systems of karate. I feel that you teach too much, and the students know too much but know nothing.
Yes.
They don't understand. So you're better off doing 3 kata really well and understanding them. The stance is correct, getting your hikite correct, getting your visual focus and your mental focus correct on the lower grade katas. Because this is the thing, people talk about kata, white belt katas, green belt katas, black belt kata. It doesn't really, for me, I don't see it like that. I see it that it's performed by white belt to green belt, black belt. It should be performed, understood, and delivered at a different standard. And there's no shortcuts. That's the thing. With real karate, there's no, you've got to put the time in. You know, you could go and learn super empe. You could teach super empe to a beginner, and after a few months, they might be able to perform. It might look good, but they wouldn't understand the depth of knowledge. I think it was Chinen Sensei that said that the Goju Ryu system wasn't a very wide or a very big system, but it was very deep. And that was a good sort of way of looking at it, I think.
You know, in medicine, they use a thing that a surgeon's knowledge is an inch wide and a mile deep, and a GP's knowledge is a mile wide and an inch deep. And I feel for some students that, like, when someone says, yeah, I'm done with sci-fi, I've learned everything, I'm like, oh, because I've been doing this for nearly 20 years. I don't know everything about sci-fi.
No.
There will always be new depths to mine with the cutters. And we both teach kids karate. The balancing the tension between teaching real karate and what they can manage and what they have the attention span, what they have the physicality for. And I think that's why, like you said, the hard part is getting them to understand that, yes, I could open the whole buffet to you, but you're not going to understand what you're doing. So why don't we just do these three things really, really well?
Yeah, so teaching kata, kata and applications. Keith Pace Sensei was big on bunkai and oyo bunkai. And you'd learn the kata, say Geki Side H, and he'd show you. He used to say it was like going into a field. When you're in the field, there's gates in the field. Open the gates and you go into other fields, and it was just never ending. So we would do the basic bunkais applications to all the basic techniques. Then we would do attacks from angles from the side, so that you would turn and react. We'd do bunkai from grabs, single hand and double hand. You could do the applications on the floor in grappling movements. And then we would look at everything. So everything that was a closed fist there would be something in that hand, not necessarily,
Yes.
but there would be something in there. If it was an open hand, obviously we did all the striking, but that suggested that you were going to grab. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
every which way you looked at it, you were so long learning different applications, but they all had to be realistic and tested, pressure tested. So anything that worked for us, we worked on and adapted, and anything that didn't work, we tended to discard. But we looked at it from different ways of doing it. You know, if somebody said to me, "Oh, I know that kata," I would say, "Okay, have you done it by this? Have you done it by being pushed, by being grabbed and hit?" So lots of different ways, and you'll find that the kata works for you. Learned one thing by Steve Morris. I don't know whether you've come across Steve Morris and said that.
Yes.
Yeah, a phenomenal martial artist. Now, certainly doesn't teach karate anymore. He teaches his own form of martial art. But, you know, one thing that he said to me, that kata was, in his opinion, was a waste of time. Because you're just moving your arms and you're just on your own in the room, moving your arms and kicking. He said it was a waste of time unless those movements had an experience. So that's where your bunkai comes in, and your ippon kumite and your oyo bunkai. All the movements must have an experience to make them useful, to make them real. Does that make sense? So then we're not just as the 3Ks of Kihon, Kata, and we have the links. I've taught on seminars with Storyu, Wadaru, Shotaka, and when I've done my bits and pieces from pushing hands, bunkai drills, they tell me that we've got the missing link. The missing link from just basic Kihon to putting your Kihon into combinations for kata, and then the kumite having no relation to the basic kata whatsoever. I find that Goju Ryu and Reichi Ryu have the link where kata links directly to what we do. So everything is, to me, is like a jigsaw and fits together.
Yes.
Interlocked. Even I always think with Goju Ryu, all my training is like a jigsaw. So you've got pad work, we've got some groundwork and grappling, makiwara, Hojo Undo, kata, bunkai, kumite, pushing hands, sanchin. There's so many aspects that we can keep working on. We never get bored. Not yet.
Kakie is the bridge between kata and kumite. And if you don't know kakie, then you don't know machine, you don't know malai, you don't know intention, you don't know how people move. Goju Ryu, I know there's no such thing as a true 100% complete system, but I think if you study the whole system, I think it's as close to complete as you're going to get. The only constraint we have is time. You know, in difference in Okinawa, they train, the dojo opens at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and they close at 10 o'clock at night. And people will come in and do 2-3 hours at a time. Unstructured. You know, of course, there's black belts and senseis there to give you corrections, people to work with. But at most, we'll see someone for 2 hours a week, maybe 3 if they're diligent. And now I've got to cram this whole syllabus in before black belt.
Yeah.
And it's just, there isn't enough time.
Yeah, I think with Goju Ryu as well, a lot of the modern systems of karate, some of the katas are excellent, and some of the kicking and the combinations are really good. But I think with time and experience and the depth of knowledge in karate, it has to be felt rather than seen.
Yes.
You can tell when you're with somebody who's powerful and knows how to use their body, or who's skillful enough to be skilled in the art of juwas or soft techniques that will, the harder you go, the easier they deal with you. Does that make sense? So there's that balance of go and do that a lot of other systems have. It's very easy to practice go, very easy to practice hard.
Yes.
Hang the bag up or use a bob dummy and punch it and kick it. Everybody can punch it as hard as they can and get harder and harder. I think the most skillful part is the soft part, and through kake and jikumite and things where we can apply the skill better through the soft techniques.
Absolutely.
It's very important because we all want harder and do better and go harder, faster, stronger. So things. I know that if I'm corrected in kata, it's always through trying to be too strong and trying to be too, where technique will very often look after itself.
Very hard. One of the things I struggle to teach is that they don't understand that speed comes from softness. You have to relax to have speed.
Yes.
Why is a snake so fast? A snake is not a rigid thing. It has incredible reflexes, and it's a good metaphor to use without leaning too far into Cobra Kai. Often, and I see this more with male students, that tension. And because I look at a lot of the exponents of karate are big, strong guys, but they forget where it comes from. The other day, I looked at Jigoro Kano's height because we were doing judo, we were doing throws in the dojo on Saturday. And he was 1.58, so he's a little bit shorter than me. I'm 1.68. And there's no record of Choji Miyagi's height, interestingly. No one thought it was important to record. But if you look at historical photos at the time, he wasn't a tall man. He was a strong man, no doubt. He was very strong. As we say in South Africa, he was quite thick. He was thick. But if you look at where karate comes from, those guys are not super muscular, overly powerful, big guys. So how did they make it work? They had to have both. They had to have the soft and the hard. Like you say, anyone can learn to hit a makiwara and get gigantic calluses, and then what? What have you accomplished? Hitting makiwara hard for the sake of hitting makiwara is missing the whole point about learning feedback.
Yeah.
And about penetration and tension and when to release and to get that explosive effect. Leads me into my next favorite topic. How much Hojo is in the dojo?
So yeah, I love Hojo. I used to do powerlifting and bodybuilding for many years before I started.
Yes.
And so I love the feedback from Hojo. And not only that, but if you're in a gym, especially when you're younger, you tend to pile the weights on dumbbells, pile the weights on barbells, and lift more and become a weightlifter rather than weight training. So I think with the Goju Ryu system, the Jumbi Undo exercises that we do, and the Hojo Undo exercises are developed, I think, not just to give strength and build muscle and strength and power, but to protect the joints, to exercise small weights. So the weight of your conga, unless you've got multiple congas, stays the same. Increase the reps.
Yes.
And you keep good form, and you're not tempted to go heavier and heavier. Ishisashi, small weights. They're small because they're developing around the shoulder joints, elbow, wrist, again with the chishi. So a lot of in the gym, things are linear. They're straight line exercises. Yes. When you're doing things in circles, it's not as you'd find it in a gym. It's specific to sort of art that we're practicing. And a lot of the things as well that I try and teach is explosive techniques with Hojo Undo equipment and tendon firing. So speed is not necessarily physical, more neurological. So when you can get that twitch fiber to move and quick,
yes.
then you get that the tendons loaded and you get that snap. So when you've got no resistance on you then get more more speed, more power. There's a big difference between strength and power, and you have to sort of get that in your head and understand the difference between strength and power.
Yeah, I'm sure there's people that could do 100 pull-ups, but they can't throw a good punch because they have no idea how to use their power.
Yes.
They just have muscle. It's understanding the kind of kinetic link between shoulder to hand and floor to hip to arm to hand.
That's true.
And I think that's so important what we're teaching. That's what the makiwara is for.
And also, a good thing that Goju and Sanchi and kata, well, all the kata teachers is the link between the breathing for the loading and unloading and connecting with the techniques. So things like kokyundo, breathing exercises where
Yes.
you get that synchronized interconnectivity. So the muscles, tendons, and the breathing, the diaphragm, everything is relaxed, then tensed on impact. So it's like creating that shock wave. It's not a strong punch, it's a powerful punch. Yeah. Yes.
A lot of people that have Goju Ryu so miraculous. The trade-off is, for all of this power and all of this strength and all of the longevity, it takes time. And I think that's the difficulty. People are like, okay, well, I want to be able to be a killing machine in a year's time. I'm like, first of all, you're in the wrong dojo. But two, nothing worth having can be learnt in a year. Sure, you can go to a 6-week Krav Maga course. I guess you think you can defend yourself. You'll never practice it again.
No.
People do self-defense courses and never, ever practice again. And then they wonder why they fall short. Because I think it was, I want to say Aristotle or Plato, but I could be wrong. And we don't rise to the level of our expectations. We fall to the level of our training. And a lot of people don't realize that to have the muscle memory to instinctively block a punch takes years to build. And kata is the living textbook for that.
Yes.
But the living textbook only works if you study it. And you study it through the bunkai. You know, I always tell kids, why do you think the first thing you ever teach you is a face block? It's the most natural movement on earth. That's the first thing you're going to teach you, not to hit someone, how to block and how to deal with that block and obviously turn that block into a strike, you know, because you've done the conditioning over time. But yeah, we cannot leave out Hojo Undo, especially with our adults and especially with aging adults. We both do a style for longevity. We're not here because we want to be the hardest, toughest, and then, you know, in our old age, you can't hold a pen because you shattered your hands. You've trained too hard. We got Okinawa Missy 70 and 80-year-olds moving beautifully and fluidly.
Yeah.
Because they've taken care of themselves over the years. And they've respected that this is a long journey. And I wonder if we didn't get that now thing from a Western point of view, not from the home of karate.
Yeah, that's true. I've just come back last week from Hamburg from the IOGKF European Gasku, and there was students there, people there teaching and training, 80 years of age, quite a few in their 70s, and they're moving good, moving very good. People with hip replacements, knee replacements, doing 5 hours training a day, and you can't tell that they've got hip replacements because their karate is great. It's
yes,
all the time. Yeah, everything's good. I spend a lot of time in my own dojo here doing kihon, just kihon, repetitive techniques. But it's not just going through the motions of punching and blocking. It's putting your mind into those techniques and putting some kime and some focus of energy in there. Because the lesson is not kihon. The lesson is kime. It's focusing your energy on those techniques, on those blocks, those movements, punches and strikes. And of course, if you drill basics to a high standard, or drill basics regularly and use the mirror to make sure everything's as best you can and your form is correct, you're creating good habits, good muscle memory, which will then hopefully transfer into your kata. Although, like everybody else, your kata is continually being improved, or will have to continually try to improve. Or I do anyway.
Seeing a lot of your short content that you do a lot of bag work with kids, this is awesome, because punching fresh air is one thing, but we know over the long term it also causes damage because of overextension that they don't feel because they're not making contact with something. So I think that's an awesome element of what you do. I also try doing a lot of bag work. It's because it's so important to have that physicality in your karate.
They can feel what their technique's doing, and if the other person's holding it, holding the bag,
Yes.
they get the feedback. And it's like a lot of things I teach the small kids. When I teach them to block, is that be quick. I use a piece of foam, whack them on the head, and they get quick.
Yes.
But if they get, it doesn't hurt, obviously. But
No.
all the time that they're blocking and they're doing things like sandan-gi, you'll find that they don't block or just put their arm there. And I say, what you're
Yes.
telling yourself is, get off me, don't touch me, get off, don't touch. So nobody comes into your space and becomes physical to you, to grab you or to hit you. So I always make them say, get off me, get away from me, don't touch me, then counter. So it's getting that mentality of why they're blocking or deflecting. And then with the older kids, a lot of people spend a lot of time teaching blocking, blocking and parrying and stuff. Whereas a lot of people don't spend time these days on attacking karate. So your attack should be strong. The defense obviously has got to be good, but your best line of defense could be the attack itself. And of course, when you're attacking, even if it's control, it should be on target. It should be a distance. So once people start to think about controlling the distance, they get a better grasp of everything they're understanding, and a need and a reason to move and to block, parry, and strike, rather than just stand there. That makes sense.
We are seeing now, it's been a problem for years, but we're seeing even now a greater uptake in bullying. It's actually one of the main reasons. There's 3 reasons people bring their kids to us. 1, bullying. 2, discipline. And 3, the kids are couch potatoes and they're at their wits' end to try to get them to do something. How bad do you feel the bullying situation is where you are? And also, obviously, karate is a form of self-defense, no matter what other styles have to say about it. But yeah, how do you feel about bullying and how it's affecting the students that come to your dojo?
Well, we get students come because, like you said, they want to build confidence or they want to be get into more activities. But I don't come across many cases of bullying that I'm aware of. And of course, there's many forms these days, not just physical, but cyberbullying and things like that.
Yeah, that's much harder to deal with.
Yeah, when I've got them in a group, I make sure at the end of the lesson, if anything comes to my ear, I tell them all that if anybody, when they're at school, if anybody bullies anybody or is seen to be misusing karate or not sticking up for other members of the dojo,
yeah, absolutely,
their family, and you've got the responsibility to look after yourself and look after your family. And I don't want to hear any bad feedback, so they start looking at you yet. So hopefully it's not too much of a problem.
Okay, we have kind of like a balance of physical bullying. Cyberbullying is getting worse. Schools now, I've seen the UK is actually leading the way in this. Like the Wait Till 8th campaign. I think it's wait till 8th grade before kids get smartphones. We're only now seeing a pushback against kids having phones. We teach in a very like working class area, very much like a blue collar dojo. And unfortunately, there is still a lot of physical bullying happening between boys, sometimes with the girls. And, it's hard when the kids are like, Sensei, I wish they would just punch me because I know what to deal with it, but what do I do when they're bullying me online? Which is a much more difficult thing that we are learning with them as instructors and as parents. That's I guess a new frontier for us as instructors. How do you even make kids confident enough that if someone is awful to them online, they just shrug it off? It's one thing. I'm sure you've had trolls online, but we big grown-ups and we're like, okay, whatever. You insult writing from their mother's basement, I don't care. Yeah. But when you're 11, 12, 13, and we're still developing that sense of ego or that confidence, I think maybe that's the tool we're going to give them now more than ever before.
That's
more than how to block a punch from the school bully.
Big drawback with modern society, telephones and mobile phones. That it's not all good, is it? Not all good. You can only guide or try and guide the students and the kids in the best way possible. I find that everything in the dojo that they do, confidence-wise, everything is positive. Even if, but then my job is to nag them every week. And we laugh it up. I used to nag them and tell them if it's no good. I tell them it's no good. Or if their cat is rubbish, I'll tell them, what was that? That wouldn't knock a budgie off its perch. And they just, but they never, because I say it with a smile on my face. So don't frown.
It comes from a place of love.
I say it with a smile and they take it. They say, yeah, you're right. But you can do better than that. But again, do it better. But when they leave, that's better. That was really good to them. Something positive. And I think the whole thing, my experience of karate for the adults, cadets, juniors and infants is positivity and self-improvement and working together as a group, and that they just can't fail it. If you could bottle it and sell it, it'd make a fortune.
I think that's the great privilege of what we do. I absolutely love being a karate instructor. I used to work in corporate. I was actually a copywriter.
Right.
I used to work in advertising and content writing, and I've done a couple of campaigns. I wouldn't go back to corporate. I mean, now, especially as a heavyweight copywriter and a content creator, I could probably walk back into advertising now and earn way more than I'm earning now as a karate instructor.
Mm-hmm.
But for the privilege of watching these kids grow and watching them change for the better. You know, I have one girl who, when she arrived, she held onto my belt and she tailed behind me for a week before she was ready to stand on her own on the mat. And then 6 months later, she was doing a kata in front of everyone at an inter-dojo tournament.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's what we live for. You know, that's the gold. And I don't think there's many career paths where you have the privilege of doing this.
No,
I think if I was a school teacher, I'd really struggle because there's so much bureaucracy and there's so much paperwork and homework in the way. Whereas we get the privilege of teaching and connecting, we can be teachers in the truest sense of the word.
Yes. And I was told by my sensei that people won't judge me on my karate; they will judge my karate on my students' ability.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and what you instill into them. So it is a great privilege and a great on a Sunday afternoon spending time with the juniors and spending time with them and stuff. My big thing when I first started teaching kids was to get them, especially if they had no confidence, was to get them to the front of the class, perform a new block or a new kick. And if they could do it correct, they'd get a badge, kicking badge or a punching badge, rather than put them through the belt system. That prevents you getting any 8-year-old black belts.
Yes.
So we use the badge system.
That's actually a great idea.
Yeah, the badge system was good, but they would only get that badge if they could achieve in front of everybody or count into 10 in Japanese. But they'd have to do it in front of us. So when the parents come to pick them up, the parents were there. So standing up in public and speaking at the age of 5 or 6, if they get used to that, when they go to school or university or get a job interview or whatever, it'll be part of what they do. It won't be something new to them. You know, so that was just a small thing that helped to instill confidence.
You know, if we do our job right, you know, no matter how long we have with them, they may leave us, but if we do what we do right, a part of us will travel with them. You know, I still remember things from my judo sensei back when I was in primary school that carried me through life. You know, you can only hope that, you know, when they count for your deeds at the end of your life, is there going to be a couple of kids somewhere like, you know, Sensei said X, Y, and Z to me on this day and it changed my life, or I hit a rough point and the dojo was there for me. Karate saved my life twice. Once when a guy tried to make me, and the second time when I was depressed. And my sensei was like, come to the dojo, people are waiting for you. And I think that is priceless and a privilege to be a sensei. But you know, that which gives life must endure burning. It's not easy. And a lot of people are like, wow, can I be a sensei? I'm like, are you willing to give up a lot of your spare time, be on call, be a mentor, a janitor? Sometimes you're going to be mopping up vomit. You're going to have kids who are going to wreck themselves. You're going to have teenagers who turn to you. You're going to have parents asking you to speak to their kid because they're not opening up to them. And then you're going to hear some horrible stories. You're going to know about everyone's lives. You're going to know who's going through a horrible divorce, whose dad is abusive. Can you do that and you're not getting paid a huge amount for it.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful life, but it's a very difficult life. And Sassy is someone who's also seen the value of karate so far beyond just, here's a yellow belt, here's an orange belt, here's your certificate. Cool. Collect my fees, go. I don't want to hear from you outside of like 8 to 4 in the afternoon kind of thing.
There's so much of that out there now, Mac Dojo. We see it. I've had students come and they say, "Oh, can we come and try on whatever belt?" I said, "Yeah, you just come and train and see." And after the end of the session, you know that it's totally different to what they've been doing. You say, "What belt are you?" "I'm the brown belt." I say, "I go and ask for my money back if it was me." But the fees that they charge, 4 times what I'm charging. I only charge, minimum fees really to cover the rent. People have a lot of money and they're not learning. They're not learning true martial arts or true karate. People think funny about money, don't they? People think that if you're low, that your standards are low. Years ago, my dad always taught me, he said, if you've got 2 ladies hairdressers in one high street, and one's expensive and one's cheap, most of the women won't be seen coming out of the cheap one. Does that make sense?
People attach a higher price value. And I guess the trick is, also there's something called vocational awe. The idea that a job is so noble and so pure that you shouldn't get paid a lot for it. Teacher, nurse, firefighter, policeman, librarian, and in many ways, karate instructor. Because it's like, you should be honest just to do this job. It's okay to underpay teachers because, it's supposed to be just the love of the job is enough.
Yeah.
But it doesn't pay rent. I think that's a very helpful term, especially with young instructors starting out. Are okay with underpricing themselves, and then they wonder why the clown down the road is teaching them far worse karate at 3 times the rate is doing better. It's a bit of a Dunning-Kruger syndrome thing, I guess.
If you're doing things correct, I used to say to Keith Pace when I trained there, he'd have like 12, 8, some nights there'd be 6 students, 14 at the most. I used to say, his karate was terrific. Why isn't your dojo full? And he said, why isn't yours? I said, I don't know. And he said, if you come late every week and make them wait for you to open up, if you don't do any push-ups and any physical contact, nobody gets the odd bruise and the odd bump and bang. If you finish the session 5 minutes early, and if you charge them 5 times as much, you'll probably be more successful. Whereas we're there, we charge very reasonable rates, and then after we've finished, everybody's having a talk and a chat and socialise, and you don't just come and go and open the account and it's gone. And that's what you can't buy.
Especially as everyone's getting more and more isolated. I was watching something on how people are literally marrying AI chatbots because they're so lonely.
Yeah.
I'm like, go join a dojo. Go find a community to belong to, because a good dojo is a community center. We've got people who've met their spouses. We've got people who are besties. I see them posting photos of them all out on the weekend. I'm like, yes, this is what I'm seeing. The kids sharing birthday party invites. What can I put on this? It's not like literally the Virgin Actor. You go in, you do your weights, and you leave. You don't talk to anyone. That's what you're paying for. You're paying for equipment in a room.
Yeah.
For a dojo, you can't put a price on community and vibe. But I think that's an important part. It's the heart of what we do.
And that's where your traditional part comes in. Training together, the discipline, and the respect, which is a big thing that needs to be taught upheld these days in society, I think. You'll see them bow when they come through the door and bow, and then if they don't, you pull them on that, and then they know. But they have to understand why they do it and why they show respect to each other in there, and to actually.
And like you say, respect must be at the heart of everything. Funakoshi's first precept, karate begins and ends with respect. Actually should be over every dojo door, because that takes care of everything. It really informs everything you need. Respect for the art, respect for each other, respect for the room, respect for the equipment, It's
Yeah.
for yourself, for your health.
And also the dojo kun is an important part. It is
Yes.
the dojo kun. So we get them to recite that, respect others, all the different never give up. That's the last one. They always say that with a bit of pride, So they're important lessons in life that we're learning. Good foundation.
That's, I think, really why people are bringing their kids to us, because they're not going to get that from the normal sports code.
No.
They're not going to get that from soccer. They're not going to get it from netball or rugby. Rugby seems to have a little bit of like a gentlemanly thing to it, but overall, that's the difference between us and like a studio, essentially.
Well,
or a boxing gym.
You play basketball, and you play football, and you play cricket, and you play rugby, but you don't play karate. You practice.
No, exactly.
It's part of a journey, isn't it?
It's a good T-shirt that I don't play karate. And the last question I want to ask you, Max Sensei, before I let you go, if there's anyone dead or alive that you could train with across time, who would you choose to train with?
I don't know. Jojo Miyagi. That would be interesting.
It would be. I would love to train with either Sensei Chinlin, because he died before I could meet him.
Yes.
Or Tomoe Gozen, a woman founder of White Crane Kung Fu.
Right.
Traveled back 400-500 years into ancient China.
That would be.
But those are my two choices.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to train with a lot of top people who are dedicated and very capable, and you usually find that when they've been doing it for a lifetime, they're very humble, very approachable, and very easy to learn from.
Yeah, I think there's a lot less ego in martial arts than people think. Yeah, there's a couple of clowns at the top, but I also think that they're being worked out of the system because it doesn't work anymore. You can't do that anymore. And talent is not enough. I think some styles die, not because the style itself wasn't good, but the people that are teaching it weren't good people. Like Jojo Miyagi, by all accounts, and I researched into his life for a video, was a kind man. He was a good man. People respected him and liked him. And they wanted to continue his art after he died, out of respect to him and everything he gave them. But I don't know how many styles have gone extinct because, it kind of got passed down from narcissist to narcissist until no one wanted to teach it anymore.
Yeah,
and I think that will help us styles to survive. Well,
we're very lucky with the IOGKF. Nakamura Sensei is the head of the IOGKF and a great martial artist. A nice fella, very approachable. And in the EGKA, we've got one of the largest numbers of 7th and 8th stands throughout the world. And these people have really put the time, work, and effort in, and they are the real deal. And all very helpful. I want to see the students get on. Every time we have Gaston courses together, everybody's always comes away buzzing.
I think that's why you and I and so many people are still here after so long. It's not just the karate, but the cheesy phrase. It's the friends you made along the way. And I love Gashku. I wish I could go to more, but I would very much like to go to an era or be in a time where everyone gets together and just enjoys the karate at its hand and not the politics.
Yeah.
Politics is the one sickness that's affecting karate. I know you and I won't talk politics online because we'll both get in trouble. I know I will, unfortunately, about karate politics. But suffice to say, whatever happens outside doesn't matter as long as we teach good karate inside our dojos.
True.
And I think the politics will kind of come out in the wash in the end.
Yeah, politics.
It can't really stop you from teaching good karate.
No, that's true. Politics is always going to be there. I never care what badge people wear, what belt they wear, what grade they want to train, and we'll train. And I get invited to lots of forums on the internet. I never join any of them. I never give my opinion on. When somebody asks for your opinion, I never join in and give my opinion because my opinion's mine. And if you say what you think, somebody else has the opposite. While they're all busy arguing politics, hopefully I'll be in the dojo. That's even, so I'll leave other people to that. Just get on with the training. It's going back to the gas. It's always so nice to go, and it doesn't matter what grade you are, whether you're first dan or sixth dan or whatever. You always, I know that I got the sports Sensei Rose Flat, who's an 8th dan, He'll watch my kata and always correct me and give me good advice on things that I'm doing, still doing, making mistakes, still overdoing things. So I'm always very grateful of the support and correction. And again, another positive aspect to help you to improve. But that's ongoing all the time. That's our job to try and perfect what we're doing. And I guess we'll never quite do that, but that's why we keep turning up every day, isn't it?
Absolutely. Every day until hopefully it's our last day.
That's the thing, is to challenge yourself, really. And again, for the kids, that don't compete with somebody next to you. Challenge yourself to be better than you last session or last week or last month. And it's like a never-ending cycle of improvement, isn't it?
I think that's a beautiful place to end it. Thank you, Sensei Max. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. To link to Sensei Max's socials in the description, please go subscribe to his content. He's putting out really, really interesting stuff and very actionable stuff. So if you are an instructor, he's an instructor's instructor. Lots of practical stuff, lots of great stuff, especially if you're working with younger students. And I'm very grateful that you reached out to me, I think a long time ago, for your books, which are part of my personal library. And I hope people will reach out to you to buy your books, because they are awesome books and we need more. In case the internet ever disappears and dies, at least we still have literature, as you can see by the karate library behind me.
That's great collect up there by the look of it.
No, it's Shay's collection of like, so everything from this side to that side is all Shay's books over the last 30, 40 years. That's my personal karate collection and all my fiction and non-fiction. I'm an incredibly avid reader. Such a pleasure to talk to you, Sensei.
Your book review was fantastic and very kind of you. Thank you very much.
Such a pleasure. I mean, if someone sends you something awesome, you must say something about it. Everyone needs their flowers while they're still alive. So, and the internet should be a place for mutual upliftment.
True. Very true. Well, thank you very much.
And what example, and it's the example you and I need to set for our students, is to be a fountain, not a drain.
That's true. Yep. That's a good one. I remember that. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Such a pleasure. Arigato. Have a beautiful, beautiful end of summer there. Spring is here and it's time to go and enjoy the blossoms. I'll chat to you soon, Sensei.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you. Cheers. You too. Ciao.